I'm 82 years old, and I have 4 months left to live. The doctor told me 3 weeks ago, sitting in that sterile office with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, that the cancer has spread everywhere and there's nothing more they can do. 4 months, maybe less, maybe a bit more if I'm lucky, though I'm not sure lucky is the right word anymore. You're probably wondering why I'm telling you this. Why a dying old woman is sitting here talking to you about her final days. Well, because I need to tell you something before it's too late. Not too late for me. I've already accepted that part. Too late for you. Because I spent the last 60 years of my life living a lie, and I don't want you to make the same mistake I did. I know you might be my age, maybe older, maybe younger. I know your bones probably ache when you wake up in the morning. I know you get tired easier than you used to. I know sometimes you look in the mirror and wonder where all the time went, how you got to be this age so fast. And I know deep down you probably think it's too late to change anything. That's what I thought too. For decades, that's exactly what I thought. But 3 weeks ago, when Dr. Harrison gave me my death sentence, something shifted inside me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like the movies. It was quiet, almost gentle. I realized that I had been lying to myself for so long that I had forgotten what the truth even felt like. And suddenly, with only 4 months left, I understood that I had one last chance to stop lying, one last chance to be honest, not for anyone else, for me. Let me back up a bit. Let me tell you about my life, about Richard, about the choices I made that led me here. Not because I want your pity, but because I think you need to hear this. I think maybe you're living your own version of my lie, and if I can help you see that before it's too late, then maybe these 4 months will mean something. I met Richard when I was 21. He was handsome, charming, had a good job at the plant. All my friends told me how lucky I was. My mother practically pushed me down the aisle, saying I'd be a fool to let a man like that go. We got married 6 months after we met, had a small wedding at the Baptist church, moved into a little house on Elm Street. From the outside, it looked perfect. Picture perfect, actually. But from the inside, from where I was standing, it was something else entirely. Richard wasn't a bad man, not in the obvious ways. He didn't hit me. He brought home his paycheck. He showed up to family dinners and smiled for the Christmas cards. But he was cold, distant. Within the first year of our marriage, I realized he didn't really love me. Maybe he never had. Maybe I was just convenient. The right age, the right background, someone his mother approved of. I remember the first time I knew for sure he was unfair to me. I was 23, pregnant with our first child, and I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. Dinner for 2 at a restaurant across town, a place we'd never been together. When I asked him about it, he barely looked up from his newspaper, told me it was a business dinner that I wouldn't understand, and I let it go. I told myself I was being paranoid, that pregnancy hormones were making me emotional, that good wives don't question their husbands. That was the first lie I told myself. There would be thousands more. Over the next 60 years, I built an entire life on lies, small ones at first, telling my friends that Richard and I were happy, that our marriage was solid, pretending I didn't notice when he came home late smelling like perfume that wasn't mine, making excuses when he forgot my birthday, our anniversary, when he barely looked at me anymore. I became an expert at lying, especially to myself. I had 2 children, Sarah and Michael, Beautiful kids. I threw myself into being a mother because it was the one role I actually cared about, the one place where I felt like I mattered. But even there, I was lying. I told them their father loved them, loved us, that we were a happy family. I made them sit for family photos where we all smiled like everything was perfect. I taught them to pretend, just like I was pretending. My daughter Sarah, she knew something was wrong. Kids always know, don't they? When she was about 14, she asked me once if I was happy. We were doing dishes together after dinner. Richard was already in his study with the door closed like always, and she just turned to me and asked. I remember freezing, my hands in the soapy water, and I could have told her the truth right then. I could have said, no, I'm not happy. I haven't been happy in years. But instead I smiled and told her, of course I was happy that I had everything I needed. The look on her face, I'll never forget it. Disappointment. Like she had been hoping I'd be honest with her and I'd let her down. But I kept washing dishes and changed the subject, and we never talked about it again. That moment haunts me now, sitting here with 4 months left. All the moments I could have been honest, could have been real, and I chose the lie instead. Richard had affairs, multiple affairs, over the course of our entire marriage. I knew about most of them. There was Linda from his office, that lasted about 2 years. Then Barbara, a widow from church, can you imagine? Right under everyone's noses. And I smiled and nodded and pretended I didn't see the way they looked at each other. There were others too, women whose names I never learned, just perfume on his collar and late nights at the office. And I stayed. I stayed because I was terrified of being alone. I stayed because I didn't know how to be anything other than Richard's wife. I stayed because leaving would mean admitting I had wasted my life, that I had made terrible choices, that I had let myself be treated like I didn't matter. So instead, I pretended. I pretended it was normal, that all marriages were like this, that I was fine with it. My sister Helen, she tried to help me. For years she tried. She'd invite me to lunch, to go shopping, to take trips together, and Richard would say no. He'd say we couldn't afford it, or that he needed me at home, or that Helen was a bad influence. And I'd call Helen and cancel our plans. Over and over again, I chose Richard's approval over my own sister's friendship. Eventually, Helen stopped asking. We barely spoke for the last 20 years. That's another weight I carry now. The years passed. The children grew up and moved away. Sarah lives in California now. We talk maybe once a month. Michael is in Denver, married with kids of his own. They visit for holidays, stay for a few hours, leave as soon as they politely can. I don't blame them. I taught them how to pretend, how to smile through discomfort, how to avoid the truth. They learned their lessons well. Richard retired at 65. I thought maybe things would get better, that we'd finally have time to talk, to connect, to build something real. But it got worse. He was home all the time, and the silence between us filled every room. We'd sit at the dinner table, eating meals I'd cooked, and not say a word to each other. We'd watch television in separate chairs, go to bed at different times, live completely separate lives under the same roof. And still, I told everyone we were fine. When friends asked how retirement was treating us, I'd smile and say it was wonderful to have him home. When my book club ladies would complain about their husbands, I'd nod sympathetically, but never share my own truth. I'd built this image of a solid marriage, a good life, and I protected that image like it was the most important thing in the world. But inside I was dying. Not from cancer, not yet. I was dying from the weight of all these lies, from the exhaustion of pretending, from the loneliness of never being truly seen or known. I was dying from a life half lived, from words never spoken, from truths buried so deep I'd almost forgotten they were there. Then Richard died 2 years ago. Sudden heart attack while watching the evening news. He was 78. 1 minute he was there, the next he was gone. And you know what I felt? Relief. Not grief, not sadness, not the devastating loss that a widow is supposed to feel. Relief. Because finally I could stop pretending to be in love with a man who had never really loved me back. But even at his funeral, I lied. I stood up and gave a eulogy about what a wonderful husband he'd been. What a good man. How much I'd miss him. People came up to me afterwards and told me how lucky I'd been to have such a long, happy marriage. And I thanked them. I actually thanked them. Even with him dead, I couldn't tell the truth. For the last 2 years, I've been living alone in this house, and it's been quiet, but it's been my quiet. No more walking on eggshells, no more pretending, no more lies. Or so I thought. Because even without Richard, I was still lying. I was lying about the life I'd lived, about the choices I'd made, about the regrets that kept me up at night. Then came Dr. Harrison's office. The tests, the scans, the serious face across the desk. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, spread to the liver, the lungs, everywhere. 4 months, maybe less. Nothing more they can do except make me comfortable. Did I have any questions? I didn't have questions. I had a sudden, crystal clear realization that I had spent 82 years lying, and I had 4 months left to tell the truth. 4 months to undo 60 years of pretending. 4 months to be real before I ran out of time completely. That night, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd washed dishes with Sarah all those years ago, and I made a list. I got out a piece of paper and a pen, and I wrote down every lie I'd been living, every person I'd hurt by not being honest, every truth I'd swallowed down, because it was easier than speaking it out loud. The list was long, longer than I expected, and looking at it, seeing all those lies written out in my own handwriting, I understood something. I was going to die in 4 months, but I could choose how I died. I could die still carrying all of this, or I could die having finally told the truth. The next morning I called Sarah. My hands were shaking when I dialed. She answered on the 3rd ring, surprised to hear from me on a random Tuesday. And before I could talk myself out of it, before I could retreat back into the safety of pretending, I told her. I told her about her father's affairs, about how I'd known all along. I told her I'd stayed because I was afraid, because I didn't know how to leave, because I'd rather live a lie than face being alone. She was quiet for a long time. Then she started crying, and then I started crying. And for the first time in 60 years, I was telling my daughter the truth about my life. Not the polished version, not the acceptable story, but the real, messy, painful truth. We talked for 2 hours. She told me she'd always suspected something was wrong, that she'd spent years wondering why I stayed with someone who made me so obviously unhappy. She told me about her own marriage, how she'd almost made the same mistakes I did before she cut herself. She told me she loved me and she wished I'd trusted her with the truth sooner. When we hung up, I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a heavy stone in my chest for decades, and suddenly it was gone. I could breathe deeper. The air tasted different. Then I called Helen, my sister, who I'd abandoned for a man who didn't even love me. She answered warily. We hadn't spoken in months, and I apologized. I apologized for all the canceled plans, for choosing Richard over her, for all the years I'd wasted. I told her I was dying, that I had 4 months left, and that I needed her to know I was sorry. She cried too. And she told me she forgave me, that she'd always forgiven me, that she'd been waiting for me to come back. We made plans to see each other, to spend time together in whatever time I have left. Real time, honest time, not the pretend visits we used to have. One by one, I've been going through my list, calling people, writing letters, having conversations I should have had decades ago. Some of them go well, some of them don't. But every single one of them lifts that weight a little more. Every truth I speak makes it easier to breathe. I told my son about his father's affairs too. He was angry at first, angry at Richard, angry at me for staying, angry at the whole situation. But we talked through it, really talked in a way we never had before. He told me about his own struggles, his own fears about repeating his parents' mistakes. We connected in a way we never could when I was still pretending. I've been thinking a lot about 2 friends of mine who died in the last few years, Martha and Dorothy. They died very differently, and I've been trying to figure out which death I want for myself. Martha spent the last 10 years of her life in a fight with her son. Something about money, about her will, about things that don't really matter now. Both of them were too proud to apologize first. Both of them waited for the other to reach out. Neither of them did. Martha died with that rift unhealed, and I saw her son at the funeral. The look on his face, the regret, the what-ifs, that's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. Dorothy was different. When she found out she had 6 months to live, she gathered everyone she loved and spent that time telling them everything she needed to say. She apologized, she forgave, she expressed her love, she shared her fears. She died surrounded by her family. Everyone at peace, everyone having said what needed to be said. There was sadness, of course, but there was also completion, closure, peace. I want to die like Dorothy. I don't want to die carrying all these regrets, all these unspoken truths. I don't want my children standing at my funeral wondering who I really was, wondering why I never trusted them with my real self. So I'm telling you this because I think maybe you're carrying your own lies, your own pretending. Maybe it's about your marriage, like mine was. Maybe it's about a fight with your child that you're too proud to resolve. Maybe it's about dreams you gave up, choices you regret, words you never said. And I'm telling you from the perspective of someone with 4 months left that it's not too late. Not yet. As long as you're still breathing, as long as you can still speak, it's not too late to tell the truth. You don't have to start a whole new life. You don't have to leave your husband or quit your job or move across the country. But you can stop lying. You can start being honest with yourself first and then with the people you love. Call that person you've been avoiding. Have that difficult conversation you've been putting off. Say I'm sorry, or I love you, or I forgive you, or I can't forgive you, and I need to make peace with that. Whatever your truth is, speak it, while you still can. Because here's what I've learned in these last 3 weeks. Carrying lies is exhausting. Even when you think you've gotten used to the weight, it's still there, pressing down on you every single day. And the relief of finally setting that weight down, of finally telling the truth, is worth whatever discomfort comes with it. I'm not going to lie to you and say everyone will understand. Some people won't. Some people will be hurt or angry or disappointed. That's their right. But at least you'll have been honest. At least you'll have lived your truth instead of someone else's expectations. And when you're lying in that bed at the end, when you're taking your last breaths, the only thing that's going to matter is whether you loved the people who deserved your love, whether you said what needed to be said, whether you lived authentically or spent your whole life pretending. I have 4 months to make peace with a lifetime of lies. It's not much time, but it's the time I have, and I'm using every single day of it to be real, to be honest, to finally be the person I should have been all along. You might have more time than me. You might have a year, 5 years, 10 years, or you might not. None of us really knows, do we? But however much time you have left, the question is, are you going to use it to keep pretending? Or are you going to finally live in truth? Because I'm telling you, from experience, from the bottom of my heart, from the perspective of someone who waited too long, don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for things to get easier. Don't wait until you're dying to start living honestly. Do it now, today. As soon as you finish hearing my story, make that phone call, write that letter, have that conversation. Tell your truth, whatever it is, while you still have the chance. I don't want you to die like I'm going to die, full of regrets about all the years I wasted pretending. I don't want you to look back on your life and realize you never really lived it. You just performed it for other people. So this is my warning to you, my last message before my time runs out. Stop lying. To yourself, to others, to God if you believe in one. Tell your truth while you still have breath in your lungs and words in your mouth. Because when you can't speak anymore, when you're taking those final breaths, it will be too late. And the weight of all those unspoken truths, all those lies you lived, that's what you'll carry into whatever comes next. I'm not carrying that weight anymore. These last 4 months, I'm going to spend them in truth, in honesty, in peace, as much as I can find. And when I go, I'll go knowing that at least at the very end, I was finally real. Don't wait until you have 4 months left to start being real. Start now. Start today. Because you might have more time than me, or you might not. But either way, the time you have left is too precious to waste on lies. Well, there you have it. Now I'm curious. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I genuinely love connecting with viewers from everywhere. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe. Your support keeps this channel going. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.